And welcome everybody, including myself, to this week's 2020 Portugal. That's the Portuguese Grand Prix Formula One, and another really exciting race for 2 laps. Also, and that was fantastic. So, basically, welcome everybody. Welcome, Fabio.
Hello.
Hello, prego and Minstituti Fali Grazie Regati, something
Grazie
or
mille a
another.
tutti. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I know. I
Yeah,
didn't want to correct you, but okay.
yeah, sure.
Uh, okay. This is basically just to say ahead of time. These are shots from where?
So this is a this is a very famous historical race which happens. It's a thing they do every year, and it's the recreation of the Mille Miglia, the famous race street which happened up until the 60s or stuff like that. And every year they make these. It's like a convoy, it's a caravan, but it's
Hmm.
the cars are supposed to be taking at least one participation in the regional Mille Miglia. And this year they just drove in front of my house, and it was raining cats and dogs. And you can see from pictures right
Yeah.
now, some of those cars are not really well equipped, to be driven in the rain. But those guys give no fucks. And there are some cars worth, I don't know, but maybe 2 or 3 millions each.
Oh, look at that Alpha.
Yeah.
Is that Kimi Raikkonen next year's Alpha? Is it?
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
nice.
that's Kimi
Yeah.
Raikkonen's next year's Alpha, and he will. I'm sure he will. He can overtake 10 persons in the first lap with that car
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah,
As we will get to shortly.
yeah.
Oh, fantastic! And what does Amelia mean?
It means 1,000 miles.
1,000 miles.
It was a race which was held. It started from a town in Italy called Brescia, and they went, which is in northern Italy, and they drove all the way to Rome and then back to Brescia, and that was in one take. It was 1,000 miles in one take.
Wow.
And people like Fangio and Moss and these people race and won the Mille Miglia. So I mean, it was
Very
big.
prestigious. Very
Yeah.
prestigious. Yes. Yeah. And again, but this is back in the days when racing was still fairly new sport, so to speak.
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. Well, we'll enjoy watching those. Apparently, there's a lot of videos. Another Alpha there. Very nice too.
Yeah.
Okay. So I suppose we should get on with the Portugal Grand Prix. And
Yeah.
just to say that it was a fantastic race, really. The circuit was lovely. I think we all enjoyed the circuit. It was pole positioned by Lewis Hamilton, who pulled it out of the bag at the last second from his teammate Jeeves, who
Yeah.
who led most of the way through the practice sessions, but unfortunately he was pipped on the very last lap by the superb Lewis Hamilton. And Lewis Hamilton, Lewis Hamilton. That's all I need to say, really.
Yeah.
Anyway, the race started as it usually does, with the 5 lights out, and then it was go, go, go. Lewis Hamilton made it first into the first corner. A poor start by Jeeves, who got overtaken by Max Verstappen, the big Maxident himself, and also Perez into turn one. And then we thought, well, that's disappointing. But it turned out that it was very cold. There was a little bit of water on the track, and this meant anybody that started on the yellow walled side tyres, the mediums, C4, anybody that started on those tyres had problems heating their tyres. So, of course, this meant that the main runners in the pack sort of dropped backwards. The only exception to this was, of course, Verstappen, who started on red wall tyres, or the softest tyre, C3, but it didn't manage to get any heat into his tyres, so he also dropped back. Lewis sped away, but then, unfortunately, unable to heat his tyres, lost some grip in a particular corner, was overtaken first by Bottas, and then later on by Sainz. Into turn three, Bottas pushed Verstappen wide. When he came back onto the track, he unfortunately collided with Perez, who was overtaking him around the outside. They ready to put this down to a racing incident, but of course, another outside overtake goes wrong. What can we say? We're going to talk about that a little later, I hope. Then onwards with the race, Lewis was quickly caught by Bottas and overtaken. Lewis obviously feeling his way and having too much to risk. He was then overtaken by a charging orange car by Sainz, quickly followed behind by Lando, who made his way through, and Leclerc, who also was trying to make his way through. By the time they got to the end of lap 1, it was a fantastic race. There'd been a lot of side-by-side action, and it was a thrilling first lap. When they got onto the main straight, though, it was kind of strange. Anybody that managed to get a bit of a run had the advantage. This was Leclerc at first, but then Verstappen's tyres seemed to warm up halfway down the straight, and then he suddenly got a wriggle on. Basically, ultimately, to have another little crash of it later on. Lando seemed to be dropping back a little after this initial start. At the same time, on lap 2, Sainz overtook into the lead. A fantastic overtake on Bottas, who was still struggling to try and keep the yellow tyres up to temperature. However, pretty soon after that, then the yellow tyres did come up to temperature, and it was back to situation normal. Lewis caught up with first of all, Bottas caught Sainz and overtook him, then Lewis caught Sainz and overtook him, and then Lewis caught Bottas and overtook him. And that was how the positions would finish till the end of the race. Of course, by lap 6, it was pretty much then, or lap 7, 8, somewhere around there, it was pretty much established into the running order. And of course, there was a lot more downfield going on as people tried different strategies. But effectively, the tyres were fairly equal after that. Once they got warm, the tyres were pretty equal. So it showed that the teams don't get it right often in qualifying, as, of course, in hindsight, everybody would have been starting on the red tyres. However, nonetheless, it was a superb race by Lewis Hamilton, 7 times world champion, or will be at the end of this season. And he drove superbly well, made very few mistakes. In fact, didn't make any mistakes. Drove away from the field, as always, on what is a very tricky track and a new track. And came home for a thoroughly deserved, record-breaking 92nd, victory to become the most winningest of all-timest racing driver in Formula One. An incredible feat, something that he's put his foot down for to achieve, and this incredible feat, as I said. So yeah, well done to Lewis. A hell of an achievement, something I never thought I'd see in my lifetime, to overtake the superlative and mainly cheating Schumacher, who has only achieved 91 victories. And I never thought, when I went through watching Schumacher go through his dominant period, that anybody would ever come close. And so it's great to see that Lewis, a British driver in what is effectively Mercedes, a British team, has beaten.
What? Jesus Christ! Come on! You started a deranged maniac when you talked about cheating Schumacher. I said, well, okay, sure. But now you're all over the fucking place, man. Come on.
Well, Christ. I say British, mainly supported by German money, but of course they are Brackley, I believe. Brackley, that famous German town in Britain.
Yeah.
So yes, fair enough. Anyway, it was a new record, 92 wins, a superb finish, 25 seconds ahead of Bottas. Which, and Bottas drove well, don't get me wrong. It was just not able to keep up. Then a third place for Max Verstappen, the accident-prone Max Verstappen, who had Perez off. Fourth place for a very creditable and a superb drive once again by Charles Leclerc, the pacey pastry, and he really drove well in what was a difficult car, difficult conditions. He managed to make the most from his package. Pierre Gasly, another creditable drive by Gasly, who managed to come through the pack, made all the right choices at the right times, pitted at the right time, put the right tyres on, and did very well keeping his tyres in check. Carlos Sainz, a sixth, which was disappointing considering he had actually led the thing. So that's McLaren, and then Perez, a seventh in the Tracing Point, who had a superb recovery, and if it hadn't have been for that one, probably would have been around fourth, maybe even competing for third. So a little unfortunate, but what a hell of a recovery. Then the two French team, the two Renaults, Esteban Ocon, who was kind of gifted 8th place from Daniel Ricciardo, and then 10th for a creditable Sebastian Vettel, who actually made a point.
Yeah.
So that's something anyway. Very surprising, but he actually did make a point this time. So well done to them. And that was the Portuguese Grand Prix. I'd just like to welcome Spooky Bear. Thank you so much, mate, for being here. And thank you for your comments. Yes, it was a fantastic British day for Lewis Hamilton the Great.
With a British car, of course.
With a, well, obviously, British-made. British-made car, apart from the engine.
And the money.
And maybe half of the team.
Yeah.
And again, a special shout out to the Irish, obviously, who helped immensely. Bono was in the pits telling Lewis, "Hey, it's okay there, Lewis. It's all right, Lewis. There, God's on your side, Lewis. You just have to put your foot down." And so that's what happened there. Bono from U2 was in the pits and was thanked after the race, as you can see by the thumbnail. So that's my Portuguese roundup, and a bit of a Freudian slip there. So now over to the person that I wound up by saying Michael Schumacher was a cheating Ferrari driver and that Mercedes were a British team. Over to the great and effervescent Fabio.
Well, I mean, you recapped the race pretty well, apart from the obvious, shit that you throw over there. I'm astonished you haven't talked about the tires yet. Yeah, but I just want to say honorable mention to Kimi Raikkonen, and which he overtook, I think, 10 cars in the first lap. I think that unfortunately probably cooked his tires, but I think it was still a shame that he got 11th. He didn't get any points because that first lap was fucking amazing. It was incredible to see a guy, making different trajectories from the other guys, trying to pass them right, front, and center. It was insane. There is a video on YouTube of Kimi Raikkonen's first lap, and it's something that everybody should watch. It's from the cockpit. It's insane. It's brilliant. It's totally brilliant. Apart from that, good race for Sainz. I think that the team was disappointing because I don't know what the fuck they thought about. I think they made a couple of mistakes in the in the tire management and stuff like that because they had a good. Well, it wasn't an excellent car, but it proved to be not too bad. So it was either that or Sainz drove a really fantastic race, considering where Norris ended up, at the end. So those would be my two honorable mentions. Another thing I want to say, which I think is important there is an unsung hero in the race, which is Steiner, the team manager from Haas, which finally, after I think 2 or 3 years, he succeeded, in getting rid of both Grosjean and Magnussen. Next year they won't be there anymore. I think the guy wanted to make that decision for 2 years, and this year eventually managed to do that. So good job to Steiner, even for different reasons, but yeah, good job to the guy anyway.
Good. Okay, so also I'd just like to say, if you want to watch Kimi's opening lap, that's in the comment section below. So that'll be there, linked for a YouTube video. Okay, so yeah, I think we've kind of done that. I hadn't mentioned Kimi because, of course, I leave that kind of stuff, the back marker stuff, to you. No, Kimi, obviously, Kimi, one of my favourites, and it was a stunning first lap. So I would recommend everybody just to watch that. Just to catch up again, this is the Italian Mille Miglia, which stands for 1,000, or no, miles, or something like that. I don't know.
It's 1,000 miles. It's
1,000 miles. Okay,
it's not hard. Come on, you can make it.
Yeah, yes. What can I say? So 1,000 miles, Mille Miglia. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping they're spelled differently. And if you notice there, there's an alien spacecraft.
Yeah.
So that's how international, global this race is.
They come Fantastic. From all over the universe. Yeah.
Yeah, just to watch this incredible parade of cars, and then we have a similar thing in this country, London to Brighton run.
Yeah,
which goes back to the 1930s or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, of course, nobody knows nothing about the London Brighton. Everybody knows about the Mille Miglia, because
Yeah.
Of course.
I say 1930s. This goes back to the 1910s, really, the London Brighton thing. But nonetheless, Mille Miglia is similar age. Do you know when it was started at all? I should look this up, really.
I think they started. So I think something like at least 1920, but maybe before. Because I think there are some cars from 1913, stuff like some really good Bugatti and stuff like that. They came all the way from that era.
Okay. Mille Miglia, 1955. It looks here, maybe first race, 1927.
Yeah. Okay. 27. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So that was the first one. Yeah. And as you can see in the background there, not a lot has changed. There you go. Still roadworks everywhere in Italy. What can you say?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was fantastic. That's great. I thought a few talking points of the race now. Mm-hmm. Firstly, what did you think of the 92nd win for the ever-conquering GOAT racer of all time, Lewis, the fantastic Hamilton?
Well, I mean, Lewis is a great driver, and with a car like that, I would not expect any less.
True. Absolutely true. It is a monster of a car.
Yeah.
And no doubt about it. And he drives it like a monster, I have to say. So, monster.
Yeah, I think that the car suits him, and also the fact that he has been driving that car for so long, and basically the car is tailored around him. So
totally, yeah. I mean, down to chassis, everything is. Yeah. After this many years, you would hope that is the case, but presumably the whole car is designed just to fit Lewis. And whatever he really wants. Although, again, as we were saying last week, I feel, as I was saying last week, there is a, no, I've got to go on to the new thing. I've just read the side comment there. Spooky, yes, of course, there is a London to Brighton race film called Genevieve. Yes, it's highly entertaining. I can't remember who the stars are. I have seen it, and it's a cute film. Anyway, moving on. So, Lewis, car designed around him, as you'd expect, because he is the leader in the team. And, that's got to be worth some extra speed that Bottas has to put up with. Although, like Bottas says, is they drive the car the similar ways. So it's not such a hindrance as it is for, say, Sebastian Vettel and Leclerc, who have effective, or Albon and Verstappen, right?
Well, so that's I think it's a little bit different, because it shows this year, for example, that the Ferrari it's not a car built around Vettel. Actually, it's quite the contrary, and
Yeah.
that I think is quite of a problem because they brought some new development, and it seems to be that the car is a little bit faster.
Mm.
The problem, in my opinion, is that it's faster with Leclerc.
Mm.
And Leclerc, if you can see when he's driving, he's always counter steering. I mean, his way of driving, he can adapt his way of driving to the car, but that doesn't make it a fast car. So what I was trying to say is that if you want to determine if the car is really fast, the moment that Sebastian drives that car fast, you know that it's a fast car. It's that kind of a
Indeed.
difference which I think it makes, because Sebastian I think is still a faster driver than Leclerc, but he needs a very precise car, and he needs a very fast car, which the Ferrari isn't right now. It's a fourth car, at the best of his abilities, and this is where Charles is bringing the car, and Sebastian, which I mean I can't really blame the guy, to be totally honest. And he also said, after the race, he said, well, I'm not racing to get 1 point. It's and I kind of understand the guy. It might sound a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
I mean,
I,
you
I
can
would agree.
make, yeah, you can make whatever you want, from that kind of statement. But I kind of agree with that. It's
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
What do you think this will have for Vettel going into the Racing Point next year?
Oh, that's gonna be interesting, I think, because so the Racing Point will be last year's, so it would be probably this year's Mercedes, and it's gonna be interesting because I don't think that, so the car is very well balanced, first of all, which is going to suit Sebastian a little bit more than this year car. Uh, I don't know if it's the kind of car that Vettel is going to like, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. He has so the rear axle is way more firm on the road, which is something that he definitely loves. The front is more precise, which is something that he loves, and we'll see what he does. I mean, we've seen people like Perez and Stroll doing really well with that car, and with what's last year's car. So I have no doubts that he's gonna have a good time. So
Yeah, I tend to agree. Also, because it's got the Mercedes engine, it means that he can wind a little more downforce on the back of it, and because of that, he will be able to set the car up more to his liking,
yeah.
and presumably achieve a little more with it than in the races. Anyway, I mean, qualifying it still might be dodgy, but at least during the races, he's going to be a bit happier. And I still think, obviously, Vettel. When I think back to some of his races, he was stunning. I mean, there was a couple of years there where his racecraft was superb, his tactics were superb, his ability to control the car and the wear rate of the tires was fantastic. He had, and I mean, I think we can all remember that race where the championship was on the line at Brazil, and he span in the second corner,
Yeah.
and because of that, he went right to the back of the field. And then I think he came through to finish fourth or something, maybe third.
Yeah, I would say
to win,
third, but you're
win the
right. Yeah.
championship.
Yes.
And with a damaged car. I mean, an absolutely stunning race. The like of which I hadn't seen since Schumacher days, when Schumacher used to be able to take this thing from his Ferrari from the back of the grid to win the race by 30, 40 seconds.
Right.
Right. Which no, I've never seen since the Schumacher days. Admittedly, there's a lot of differences now. I mean, tires back then were grooved; they weren't slicks, and so obviously with the ability Schumacher had to wear his tyres out and then keep going on the on the worn out tyres because they gave you more grip than the groove
Yeah.
tyres. That was something special. And
Well,
gave
I
him a
mean,
hell of an advantage, of course.
I,
But nonetheless, still, I think it was it Portugal? Estoril, yeah, it might have been at Estoril. There was a famous race in the half wet, half dry conditions where Schumacher lapped the field
yeah.
from the back of the pack.
Well, I
So
mean, I would say that Sebastian has grown into the kind of driver that. So, first of all, let me say, I don't think that he lost his killer instinct. I
yeah,
think that a couple of years ago, when Ferrari made a car which wasn't shite, and he had a chance, to fight for the title, up until that Mercedes just leaped ahead in development. I mean, the guy showed that if there is a fight, he gets into the fight, right? For good or for worse, it doesn't matter. I mean, what I'm saying is that he's not one which is shy of the fight. I think that he turned into the kind of driver that if there is nothing to gain, he would not risk as much as he could.
yeah.
And some drivers turn into that. Some other drivers, they are crazy up until the end. See, I mean, Kimi, for example. I mean, Kimi is the same mental person that he was, I think, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I can totally see that. So it will be interesting to see what happens next year with the Racing Point, and also the fact that I don't think that next year Racing Point will aspire to win the drivers' championship. So
No.
he will have way less pressure on him, and that might be a good thing, just the sort of thing that you need to actually start again fresh with the target which is precise, that you know that you can actually get, and we'll see what he does.
Yeah, I mean, for a start, I think it changes quite a lot for next year. Vettel going to Racing Point. One of the things it changes is that Racing Point are going to have a good shot at either second or third, more likely, place in the championship. So that's a shot there, right? Depending on who the second driver is. If they stay with Stroll, maybe not, but if they don't, otherwise. And the second point is they're really. I think that signing seals the fate of Albon, because now I think Red Bull cannot afford not to have a strong second driver if they want to hold on to second place in the championship next year. So
Albon, I think, is gone. I think that Albon is totally gone. I don't know who they're gonna get, but so I've heard that next year in Toro Rosso there's gonna be a Japanese driver.
Yes.
So
I've been watching him in F3. He's very good.
Yeah, it's very good. So maybe the second driver will be Gasly, because they probably keep Gasly. Albon is probably going to bounce, and that is, I think, the only seat which is gonna stay, up for grabs. And I still have no idea who's gonna get in there, because talking about the driver's pilot, so they're gonna get Schumacher and I can't remember the other guy, but
Marzipan, Mikita Marzipan or something, is it?
Yeah, maybe, the Russian guy, I think, is from Russia. Mazepin,
right.
Mazepin,
His dad's a multi-billionaire,
Yes, so Alfa Romeo will keep Giovinazzi and Raikkonen.
Really?
The only person which is, and this is, well, it's not a problem, but there is a guy walking in the paddock with a suitcase full of money, and that's Perez.
Yes.
And I think that he will probably end up in Williams, to the detriment of George Russell, which is a shame, if you ask me, because I think that Russell has way more talent than Perez. But it would be an hard pass from Williams in the situation that they are to just say no to someone which brings a shitload of money. So
I think it's in the region of 30 million.
Yeah. So that is probably going to be next year roster. And again, the only place which is still up for grabs is the Red Bull, because I think Albon is gone. I mean, they will probably. I mean, so I would be surprised if they keep him at the end till the end of the season. First of all, but if he manages to race all the races, I think that he will end up on the last race. Where is the last race? Is it in Abu Dhabi? Where is it? The last race?
I will tell you very shortly. Oh, okay. I haven't got it on my screen anymore. Abu Dhabi. Yes, Abu Dhabi. There's two races. Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. So I mean, if I were Albon, I would be sure to book a plane ticket from Abu Dhabi to, I think he lives in London in the UK, because I don't think that they're gonna buy him the return ticket. They're gonna leave him in Abu Dhabi and say, you know what, there you go, yeah, Roma. Mm-hmm. So he probably have to arrange for his own trip back home.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm
Abu Dhabi, correct.
I am not surprised by that, because that there is something with that guy which is not consistent at all. I'm not saying, I mean, he has proved to be a fast driver when he wants, but that's not the kind of performance that you expect to deliver in Red Bull.
Yeah, I mean, he started strong, no doubt about it, and has become a little bit hesitant to throw the car in, probably because he knows that it's worse to crash it than it is to finish in a bad position. But if I were him, right now, I'd be thinking, okay, so if I don't get these extra tenths a lap, I'm done anyway. So let's just throw it at the scenery and see what happens.
Yeah, but you see, he's also the kind of guy which, and I think I'm just letting you go with the other topic that you want to talk about. He's the kind of guy which doesn't really learn. He doesn't seem to be learning a lot, especially the way he drives and the way he wants to overtake people.
Right.
And I know there is a topic you want to talk about, so I think that's, I'm giving you a segue to that.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, basically, I wanted to talk about drivers continuing to overtake on the outside, which, as I was saying to Fabio, was not something which was very common, because, of course, back in the day, you would just run someone out of road if they tried to go around the outside, and the stewards would never do anything about it. It's only been in this modern era that the stewards have been less, that they've said, right, you have to leave a car's width. Okay, otherwise, whatever, you're going to get penalised. And they've been penalising people that haven't left a car's width, unless they've been a top driver like Hamilton or Verstappen, who both have got away with running someone off the road in this modern era. But even if we go back to the Rosberg days, right, Hamilton was running Rosberg out wide to make sure that he didn't get past him on several corners every time Rosberg tried to go around the outside. And of course, nothing was done because they were front runners. So basically, I'm a bit disappointed in some ways because, if they wanted to allow outside overtaking, in my mind, they should have penalised Verstappen, who pretty clearly to me could have backed out because he saw, because he did see Perez coming around the outside. Now, that's my personal opinion. It's not something that stewards agree with, obviously. I'm just fed up with this, like cars trying to go around the outside nowadays, when they've been doing it consistently for a few years and it's been working out, and everyone's been praising them, going, "Oh, well, that was a fantastic overtake," and it's just a couple of drivers that are just not letting it happen, like the old days, and they're running cars out wide, and cars are having contact. Okay, and that's something which either needs to be decided upon. Either you can't do that or you can do that. But this mid-ground of some drivers can, some drivers can't, is beginning to wind me up. Go ahead.
So three things really fast. As for the specific accident, I honestly think that Verstappen didn't see Perez on the inside. So I think that was an accident. I'm not blaming Verstappen at all, for that one. The going on the outside. So it's not that I don't think it should be, prohibited in any way, shape, or form. I think that the reason that it happens is there are two reasons. The first one is the tires, which have been improved a lot, and the way the aerodynamic of the cars they work right now, they allow you to overtake someone on the outside if you have a marginally faster car. The second thing that I blame more, and this is my biggest, beef, is the circuit itself. Because if you try to pull that shit in places like Imola or Mugello, for example, those kind of circuits, you simply cannot do that because there is no tarmac outside the corner. There is gravel. So the moment you try that shit, you know that you're fucked. And I specifically blame those circuits, and it's not by chance. Every race they have to make this thing which it has never happened, and it has happened. The same time that people started going outside, they say, "Oh, if you put 4 tires outside there, you're going to be disqualified, you're going to get a warning." And that never happened in the other days, when outside the track, nobody told you cannot go outside the track, because you would not go outside the track because there is fucking, gravel. There is no driver's briefing in Monte Carlo telling you, "Oh, you can't go outside the track because outside the track there's the sea." See what I mean?
Yeah, well, kind of. I mean, there's the chicane after the tunnel, of course, where they do have to make some rules and say, right, you can't corner cut there. But that is different. That is different. Okay.
Yeah.
And they took away the barriers because it was just dangerous. People were crashing into them. That would stop the race if somebody crashed there. Nowadays, you just run across a curb. It fucks you up for a little bit. You carry on. Nobody loses any spots. Right. And this is the dilemma that they face, right? They face stopping the race in some ways, or putting massive curbs in, which can then damage the cars. Right. So, what are they supposed to do?
The reason is that mostly the reason is that because of a lot of tracks, they got to race a lot of stuff into that, including motorcycles, including GT cars, and every vehicle has their own requirements. Like, for example, if you put gravel outside the track and you're racing motorcycles, there's going to be way more dangerous, because the moment it goes there, you just have a crash, and the motorcycle just gets stuck in the gravel, and you're basically it throws you like in the future, while with the cars it's the other way around, because you can take very high risks knowing that fucking nothing's going to happen. What the fuck is going to happen? They give me 5 seconds, but it might be worth it, if I do it 3 times. So that is, I think it's a problem, and I don't think they're going to solve the problem really fast or at all, if you ask me, because
I don't see it just because of the bikes, right? There's nothing we can do. The curb thing is a possibility. They could screw some big curbs everywhere and stop the cars going over the curbs that way. But they of course, they're not going to do that, Yeah,
because the curb is a solution, but it's a very dangerous solution, because if you drive over there with an F1 car, you run the risk of basically having the car being airborne. So that's another problem. So it's a very difficult situation, and I think that this problem is here to stay for a long time. There is I don't see any possible solution in the short term. Unless they start putting nails outside the track when the cars are driving, which might be a solution. I don't know. You go there and
if you go off, you get a puncture. Yeah, but again, just as dangerous, really, I guess. There you go. I think in hindsight, and this is with hindsight, maybe Perez is at fault for that Verstappen crash, because he could have driven off the track.
Yeah, right.
And still made the overtake, presumably. Yeah. And then he probably wouldn't have been penalised. So there is that. And, against certain drivers like Verstappen, I guess that they're going to do that. They're not going to give you the space because Verstappen's old school in that sense.
Right.
It's only the young guns like Norris and Albon especially, and whoever else. Difficult to think. Russell probably, and a few others that do these outside overtakes and think that they're going to get some respect from the other drivers.
Right.
Forgetting, of course, that Formula One isn't like the lower formulas, where it's not quite so important. This is crucial. One position in a Grand Prix can cost millions.
Yeah.
At the end of the season, especially, So I think they will learn, and again. But again, I'm railing at the inconsistency of the stewards here. We're going to go back to this again. There has to be some firm rules put in place. And again, with the Verstappen one, yes, it was on lap 1. Yes, that makes a difference. I think if this had happened on lap 2 or 3, then I think Verstappen would have been penalised.
There were some. So funnily enough, I think this year or last year, I read some interesting proposed solutions, which they were not taken into consideration, and I think it's a shame because some of them were really, really interesting, and a couple that I remember. So one was really hard to implement. That basically said you should either wet the outside of the track or put something which is way more slippery. So the moment you go there, you have a serious disadvantage. But that it's tricky to put in place.
That. Yeah.
And the other one, which I think it was interesting, but nobody really, I think it seriously proposed that, which is a shame because I think it was really cool, was to you put whatever 4 wheels outside. So instead of giving you 5 seconds, when you stop for the tire, you get 5 seconds, stuff like that. There was a proposal of electronically tuning down the car for like 10 seconds, like not allowing you, for example, the energy to be spent, the electric, or just shut down the DRS for 2 laps, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that could be implemented directly from the racing direction, and it would be in real time. So you will not have this problem that I got 5 seconds, but there is a safety car, so my 5 seconds are not exactly as the 5 seconds of the other guy, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
that would have been interesting to see.
That's an interesting proposal to ban the ERS for say 2 laps.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that is a huge disadvantage, and would certainly stop the drivers going out there. And again, you could give them a warning system as well, maybe twice outside, and then a warning. Of course, drivers are going to take 2. Right. You know what I mean? Right. To take the advantage and then risk it. But nonetheless, that's Formula One. So again, I wouldn't be too disturbed. The other point, maybe, is that you have a 5-second stop and go within 3 laps if you do it on the 3rd time. That's another one, which is in even more. That's going to cost you like 30 seconds then. So again, I think some kind of draconian penalty is required in order to stop people doing this. However, again, this would then leave the problem of people pushing people out wide again. All right, what happens if you get pushed out wide, and you're going to have to take a penalty then, are you? Because somebody didn't leave you the gap, and then it's down to a steward's decision as to whether they justifyingly left you a gap enough for car's width, which they're supposed to do.
You're right. That's another very interesting point. That's why I think that the steward situation as it is right now, it's quite okay, but it's not enough. I think there should be a panel of steward which is consistent. So all the tracks are the same panel of steward, and I'm fine with bringing that panel from 3 to 5. I'm cool with that, but it should be the same persons for every race, so that at least you will get a sense of the decisions being consistent. You know what I mean?
Across the season, yeah.
Right, and there might be even faster decisions because I understand that one of the problems that they have in taking a little bit of time in making a decision is that if you are a set of steward for I don't know, I mean the Portuguese Grand Prix, it's three of them. Nobody wants to fuck royally, so they take a little bit of time deciding, but a little bit of time means many laps. If you got the same panel, to say, okay, we sit down at the beginning of the season. This is the criteria we're going to use. They're going to be consistent. So if you do that, we don't have to talk about it, for half an hour. So we have to decide if what you said, the situation where did they push him outside? Did he not? But that would be way easier to understand, to decide, especially if again it's the same panel of people. They can have an understanding each other way better than if they change every time. So
I mean, okay, the way it's done at the moment is because it's the way they figure it at the moment, and the way this has traditionally been, is that the local people, the local race directors of the circuit, are on that panel because they know the circuit, they know how other races have gone, they know where the likely points that people do take advantage are, etc., etc. They've seen incidents at those corners again, so that's different as well.
Yeah, I mean,
and maybe there is something to that. I think now I've heard you, say these things about it. I think actually having another panel off-site, right, like an international panel, which just oversees the decisions, right, and just goes, okay, if the local people think this, fair enough. This is a 50-50. We'll let the local guys decide. Or no, we need to override this because this is inconsistent with previous decisions. I think that's a great idea, and maybe it should just be a couple of people or three people again to make those decisions. But I'm worried about politics in Formula One, and this is traditionally again been a big thing in Formula One in all of the decades that I've been watching it. Which is this can make such a big difference going even back to the Senna race, the famous Japan Senna race, right?
Yeah, I think that now they have a very good chance to implement a system like that with the fact that Liberty Media is on, the fact that Domenicali is going to be the next boss of the whole thing. He's a guy which has got a huge race experience. I mean, I don't think that anybody in his right mind would even think that the guy is going to be partial to one team or another. I mean, even the guy's always said he's going to be a Ferrari man, but because he worked in Ferrari. But given the way that he was treated, he was left away. I don't think he has. He might root for Ferrari.
Of course he will.
But I don't think that he roots for the people which they're actually running Ferrari. So
I have a big respect for
that guy. I mean,
because even at the time, even when he was working for Ferrari, doing the Ferrari things, saying the Ferrari line, even through all of that, I still felt he had some integrity.
Absolutely.
And I could see that some of his decisions were just based for the team. And of course that was understandable because all the other team principals did the same thing. But when it came to things which were for the good of Formula One, he would quite often stand up and go, look, whatever we think about it as Ferrari, this is the way it should go because this is for the best of the sport. And then we'll decide later when we all vote. And then that was all kept behind doors as normally these things were.
No, I totally agree with you. And that's one of the other reasons why I was way more happy that the guy was chosen, to be in charge rather than Toto Wolff, because I don't think that Toto Wolff would have been the same.
Well, I mean, Toto Wolff's got quite a few conflicts of interest,
right?
And that's the reason why I didn't think he was great. If Niki Lauda had survived, then I think he also would have been in the running and would have been an equally good candidate. But nonetheless, I'm glad it's Stefano because, as I say, I felt he was good for the sport. He lost in a way which was honourable, and in a way I think even when it was against Ferrari, he would still stand up and say, "Yeah, we fucked up."
Yeah.
Not like some of the Ferrari bosses that would say, "Yeah, we never fucked up. We never did anything wrong.
Yeah.
Nothing." You know what I mean? No. Schumacher accidentally slipped, and the steering wheel came out of his hands, and he accidentally ran into Damon Hill. Or whatever. Or Jacques Villeneuve, or whoever it was at the time.
Jesus Christ, I mean, you're still salty about that. Fuck me.
I am, yeah. I can still remember Damon coming around the corner, because I think at the time I was watching it, it was Australia, and we were live on board with Damon as he comes around the corner, and we see Schumacher off, and I remember turning to my friend and going, "He's off!" My friend was a Schumacher supporter. "Schumacher's off, oh my God, Damon's going to win. I can't believe Damon's going to win." And then the next thing I see is Schumacher coming back on the track. Right, and then me going, "No, Damon, don't do it," and then he did it.
Yeah.
And then that was it. And I went, "There you go. You see, there you fucking go."
That's how you win the championship, mate.
Yeah, there's been a lot of history, Prost and Senna, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of history there. But nonetheless, times have changed, and we don't get that kind of thing in Formula One anymore, thank goodness. So hopefully it'll be okay.
Before you leave, I was thinking about one thing yesterday. So between Schumacher and Lewis, they won something like 180 Grand Prix combined, right? If you think that they had something like 1,000 Grand Prix, so a fifth of all the Grand Prix ever raced have been won by those two persons, which I mean, it's, if you put it like that, it's mind blowing. And the fact that we have lived in an age where we have seen both of them, it's amazing.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I never thought anyone would get close to Schumacher.
No,
when he hit 5 championships, I thought, well, he's got 5. That's it now. He's the best of all time. I'm going to die thinking that Schumacher is the best of all time. Oh my God, it's horrible. But no, there you go. Vettel got to 4, and I went, oh wow, Vettel's at 4. And that's the other amazing thing. Those 3 guys, right? Those 3 guys have dominated the last 20 years of Formula One.
Yeah.
So it goes to show you that it is about the best car, but it's also about the best talent, the fastest drivers, and that's again says volumes about Lewis. I think says volumes about Lewis that he's up there with these greats of all time. To me, says that he's really dominated and mastered what you need to do in a modern Formula One car, like nobody else has or could have done. So.
I mean, again, this is it's a very old discussion that will never be solved.
If I may just take it, I just want to say welcome to a new subscriber, Sue Whitehead. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Carry on.
I've always refrained for telling who was the best among the two, because I don't think it's and I honestly think it's not a fair comparison.
Of course, it never is.
Yeah, it's different. It's totally different. I read an interview from an engineer, Aldo Costa, which is an Italian engineer, which is the only one which was both an engineer for Schumacher and for Lewis Hamilton. I mean, he just resigned from Mercedes last year. And he was talking about Schumacher and Hamilton. And he said something about Schumacher. He said, the way that he could, the guy was a fucking machine. Keep in mind that when Schumacher was racing, basically the tests were free. And he was giving you feedback before that you could read the data from the car. And the feedback was always on point. That was fucking impressive. All the engineers loved the guy. It was uncanny. It was that good. And when he talked about Lewis, he said, well, Lewis is kind of the same thing, but because of they cannot, test freely, he basically makes the same thing with the simulator.
Right.
So that goes to show that I don't think there is a lot of difference between the two. It's they're both two great drivers, which they're able to use the tools of the times better than anybody else. And of course, Lewis has got the Mercedes, but this is because I'm a dick. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I would agree. And also, let's not forget here. I want to shout out to Rosberg. I know, not common, but I want to just give him a shout out because Rosberg was a phenomenally consistent driver. And as a result, the Mercedes took several steps forward in those years, even when he was Schumacher's teammate. As a test driver, he was phenomenally consistent, and the same thing with Lauda, right? He used to be able to do the same thing Lauda could do. You could put a part on a car, Rosberg would go around to several laps, and then he would tell you exactly how much that part was worth. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would agree perfectly with the Sims, right? Because he was that consistent on driving a car. Lewis has that; he just has it at the edge, right?
Schumacher was able to do a thing that Lewis didn't. I'm not saying that Lewis wasn't capable of, but I'm just saying that Lewis didn't need to do. And we never know how it went, the other way around. But according to everybody which has worked in Ferrari at the time, Schumacher was able to actually build the team. Of course it was Ross Brawn, of course it was Jean Todt, but Schumacher was the third wheel of the team, as on par with Ross Brawn. He actually dictated, the way that the work should be done. It was that kind of person.
Arguably, those people took jobs at Ferrari because Schumacher was the driver. Arguably, right?
Yeah, no. You're right, Joe. But what I'm saying is that usually in a team you got a team manager, that set the timetable, the way they work, all the procedures and all the stuff. And the driver is not the guy which makes this job. You're getting a timetable, you got the procedures, and all the things. Schumacher was actually a big wheel in the decision process of even those things that normally are not led to the drivers, which again, it was quite impressive at the time. And I'm not saying that Lewis is not able to do that. I'm just saying that Lewis never found himself in a position that he actually needed to do that. Maybe he would have been as good as Michael, I don't know. But he just never found himself in that position, because
Formula One is different, and
they were different, different times.
I agree with what you're saying. Let's not forget the first 2 years that Schumacher was in Ferrari. It was a dog of a car, and he made steps in that car every year, to the point in the second year where I think he actually managed to win a race. So he took a car from the back of the grid, not the back, the low midfield, shall we say, to the front of the track in 3 years. That's phenomenal. That is phenomenal.
94 and 95 Ferrari were, were shit. People always say this is the worst Ferrari ever. I would say that the worst Ferrari ever was the one in 92, the one with Jean Alesi and Ivan Capelli. I think the one which won only one race, or no, not even one race. I think.
Not even one, I think. Yeah.
And
kept breaking down.
And Schumacher came. I think in 94 or 90,
I would probably agree with that. 92, 93. So probably 94.
Yeah. So he basically jumped in a car which was shite, as you said. So anyway, it's 1 hour. It's the 1 hour mark.
Next, it is the 1 hour mark. So it is now 1 minute to go. So we've got 1 minute to talk about Italy. Imola. In next week, we've got 2 days. There's only an hour and a half practice, followed by qualifying on Saturday, and then the race on Sunday. So it's going to be really exciting. We haven't been here for many years, so the cars are not going. Presumably, they've done some resurfacing. There'll be new curbs to deal with, etc., etc. So I think it's going to be fantastic. I really do. I love Imola. I used to love Imola a lot
Mm-hmm.
before 80. Was it 84? 94?
Uh,
No,
uh,
94.
I can't remember when.
92. Anyway,
Yeah.
a long time ago now,
Mm-hmm.
in the 90s, 96.
Mm.
Anyway, yes, before the tragic events of that weekend,
Yeah.
Imola was always a favourite, and hopefully so it can regain some of its status because it certainly deserves it because it is a fantastic racetrack.
Yes.
I'm excited about going back to Italy again. Unfortunately, it's behind closed doors,
Mm-hmm.
so there won't be the famous tifosi.
Yeah.
I don't know what tifosi means.
I
Presumably.
mean, it's fans.
Oh, it's as simple as that. Okay,
Yeah.
fans. Yeah. Okay, the famous fans, and that's great. And then this will be how many races after this? Let me just 1, 2, 3, 4 races after this. So it's pretty much if Lewis wins this next race, we're pretty much guaranteed a victory. Let me see. There's 256 plays 179, so that's 20, 76, 75 points ahead now. So if he can get 25 points on Bottas in the next race, then he will become champion. And so it's likely to be another 2 races to go, but we're getting pretty close.
Yeah.
And to what would be a world record equaling 7th world title, and I can't wait for it personally.
Yeah, I
Thank.
mean, this year has been shite, but the only good thing that we take away from this year is that F1 has raced in at least 3 places that normally would never even be considered for a race, which is Mugello, Portimao, which is a fantastic track, and Imola.
Yeah,
So I mean,
and we've got Turkey coming up as well yet.
we
So
got Turkey, yeah,
and that's a
and
fantastic racetrack as well.
And there is another funny thing is that there are some tracks that nobody has raced on, like Mugello or Portimao or Imola.
Hmm.
Some drivers have never. There is only one driver which has raced on those tracks previously, and it's the immortal Kimi Raikkonen.
Kimi Raikkonen,
Yeah.
the fantastic Kimi Raikkonen. I just got to
Yes.
tell you this one story for the Kimi. He had a fantastic first lap. I recommend everybody go to the link below in chat and just watch the first a minute or so of that and see Kimi just doing some incredible overtakes. Martin Brundle went up to Kimi Raikkonen once and said, "Kimi, where have you been? Okay, you've missed Pele on the podium, giving everything away. You missed meeting Pele." And he went, yeah, okay. And he goes, "Yeah, but Kimi, he missed Pele. Where were you?" And he goes, "I was having a shit."
Yes.
Kimi Raikkonen, we salute you. Thank you very
Yes.
much. Ciao, Fabio.
Ciao, ciao.